Welcome, everyone, to today's episode. Today, let me paint the picture. I am sitting in my back porch. I'm on the couch. I am joined by my love, Doug Sandler, and we are looking at the beautiful backyard, and there are birds and trees and a wind chime. So in case you hear other sounds, that is where we are. Welcome to the show, Doug.
Hi. Well, this is interesting. This is a good outside first recording of the season outside while Domino is licking the back of my head. This is good. We do have one of the 5 cats that we own outside with us because she's the only responsible one in the group.
The only one we can trust to not run away.
Very true.
And so today's episode was an impromptu situation that happened. Most of you that follow the show, if you listened to last week, the energy underneath, or the last episode actually, I talked about the emotional side of core wounds and what we put underneath the actions that we do. That it's not necessarily about the action, but why we do it and what drives us and what motivates us to do X, Y, or Z. Well, what happened the other day on Wednesday, currently it's Friday, and on Wednesday, Doug and I do our normal hike, and we had a situation where we both got triggered, and we had a pretty decent argument. And what was really good about it was because we were walking and on our hike, which has a beginning and an end.
We were captive.
Right? We had to work it out.
We couldn't deal with just being silent. We had to work it out.
Although we've done that too.
Yeah.
He got mad at me a couple weeks ago before that, and we didn't talk the entire time we were walking together, and we didn't even walk together. But this was a situation where we were walking side by side, and we dealt with it. And I'm so happy. That's why we're sharing this episode with you today, because I wanted to demonstrate when I talk about tools, what those tools are and how to use them. And you can even implement what I'm going to share with you today into your own life if you have the resolve and the ability to take a step back when you're triggered for a second, and depending on the intensity.
You got to push through the intensity to a little degree, because you have to be able to have the clarity to know that you're in it, to be able to step back saying, I am in this right now, and this is an opportunity for me maybe to resolve something that's been going on in my life about me. Don't you realize that the arguments you have are never about your partner? It's always about something that happened to you probably decades ago. So pretty interesting setup.
All right, so we're walking, and there's a theme. There's always themes, right? But this is one of the themes, and the theme is that I get triggered when Doug asks me a question of something I've already answered or told him before, and sometimes told him multiple times. Now, I'm going to set this up, and we're going to go sort of throughout the whole thing so that you can be right along with us in case this sounds like an issue that you have with your partner. And it doesn't have to be a partner. It could be your child. It could be your parent. It could be a coworker or a boss. Now, I don't think anyone, besides a partner or someone very close to you in your family, is probably going to have this kind of conversation right away, because the habits we have when we get triggered is usually to shut down, run away, withdraw, yell, or just sort of ignore. And again, because we were captive, we chose this time. We've done the ignoring before. We chose this time to deal with it because the intensity of this trigger wasn't huge. It was like hurt feelings on both sides and annoyance and frustration that's happened so many times that I felt like, okay, we need to get underneath this. So we're walking, and Doug asks me some questions about, I think it was like what I had going on that day. Like, what do you have going on today? And I had told him like 2 other times. And so when I said what I said in the way that I said it, which I was trying really hard not to be super annoyed and triggered, I was a little smart ass about it in my reply, but that made you feel what?
It made me feel stupid. It made me feel like, literally, like you could have said, instead of answering the question, you could have said the words, "You idiot. How stupid are you that you can't remember what I just told you an hour ago or 2 hours ago?" And that was the message, that was the emotion that I was getting underneath the whole thing. Was, you're an idiot.
So before he got triggered, I was triggered. So let's go back a second to my trigger. So when he asked me, although I was, again, managing it pretty well compared to what I wanted to say or do, when he said to me, "So, what are you doing today? What kind of work do you have? What kind of plans?" And I thought, "Oh my God, I've already told you this. This is internal in my head. I've already told you this twice." And what happens for me is that I interpret. Okay, so what I feel is frustrated and a little sad and a little angry. And why is because what I interpret that to mean is that I'm not important enough to listen to the first time, or that what I have to say isn't memorable enough, or you don't care enough when I tell you the first time to remember it, or that you're not present when you're talking to me or I'm talking to you, so you never remember anything. That's my interpretation. That was a wound that I have, which is so funny because in my last relationship, that is not what happened at all. I was the other person. In a past relationship, I was the one who was repeating myself all the time, and they were the one always being offended by me repeating myself. So I just want to put that out there, that just because you have a wound doesn't mean it always shows up with the same people in the same way, because roles have definitely been reversed in this relationship. So I'm coming from the place of trying to control being upset about the fact that I feel and think and interpret that when Doug asks me to repeat something as if I've never said it before, that I'm not important enough to be listened to. So that is why my delivery back to him, he could feel me being annoyed and me being mad and frustrated. And then he reacted by interpreting that to mean I thought he was stupid. Is that correct?
That 100% correct. So what you're dealing with is a scenario, which is the perfect storm of a conflict is one wound meeting your partner's wound.
Yeah. And there are times where, let's say, we've had arguments where Doug's wound has been present and mine, and I'm not wounded. And so that's a kind of an out of balance one, or, but in this case, we both had wounds, and that's where we were acting from. And in that moment, I think you were frustrated and you wanted me to. Do you remember what you said to me or how you reacted?
I don't remember how I reacted, but I something to the effect, at least if I remember correctly, I thought, "Why are you getting so frustrated with me? Now, know that I love you. I'm not asking you to repeat yourself because I don't even care what the conversation was about. Just the fact that we're on this hike, let's just have a dialogue. Let's just talk. Even if you've given me this information before, let's have a conversation about it." It's like the same question that you might ask your partner, "What are we having for dinner tonight?" And it's literally, you could have had the conversation 5 minutes before and the partner could have answered the question. And you're just like, "I'm just opening up the dialogue. I don't even really care what the answer is. I just want to have a conversation with you." And it almost was like, "Hey, this is hitting me out of left field that why are you getting frustrated with me? I'm just asking you an honest question." And you interpreted that as, "I don't listen to you, and what you say is not of value to me, so I am I shut you off."
Right. Now, what happens next, which did happen for us, and it happens a lot for couples or people in relationship or at work, is that we both everyone usually goes to how you want the other person to behave in order for you to not get triggered. So what happens is you normally ask for a behavioral change. And do you remember what you asked of me? You did. You said, "Can you just not get frustrated?" I think you said something like, "Can you just remember that I love you?" And I was like, that's okay. That's a surface. I've already been triggered, and now I have to work back through that what you want me to do. And in return, I asked Doug, "Can you acknowledge something like, maybe I've asked this before," or just something to ease the slap of, "Seriously, you're asking me this again because you've already asked this from me?" And he's like, "I'm not going to remember to do that." And so we did go to that first. And I wanted to bring that to everyone's attention because I think, when we individually feel pain and we're with somebody and we didn't feel pain before, and then now we have pain, we want to look to that person and say, "It's your fault that I have pain. It's something that you've done that doesn't sit well with me, that you need to change so that I can feel better." And I think this is the basis of the work that I'm doing with people, because this is considered victim mentality. You cannot go around asking everybody in your life to change their behavior so that you feel better. It's not logical. It's not possible. And it's considered victim mentality. Yet it's so common and it's so codependent and it's so expected that, and again, I was queen of it. When I was in junior high, I was so proud of the fact that I could tell you how you hurt my feelings and tell you exactly what to do to not do it again. I thought, how good am I? I'm so good at communicating. I can identify it. And now I look back and go, holy crap, what the hell was I doing? So we started by asking each other to behave differently. Can you just do this differently? And that's a theme. It's happened before with other things that both of us have done. But I knew that that wasn't going to be sustainable. And so trying to manage my feelings and Doug's in the moment, I thought, okay, let's go to the core wound. Let's go to what we're hearing. Let's change what we're hearing, because it's not, if we can change what we hear, then we don't interpret it the same way, and therefore we don't react the same way. So I asked him, what do you want me to hear? Because here's what I hear. And I think before I told him what I heard, you didn't know that that's what I heard, did you?
Nope.
Okay, so it was new information for you when I said, when you repeat yourself, I interpret that to mean you don't listen to me. What I say isn't important enough. Okay, and that was new for you.
Yep, 100% new. I'd never heard those words before, or if you had said them, if you said them, I did not hear them in the way that they were supposed to be received.
Okay. And do you remember what you told me? Because I said, I need you to tell me how you would like me to interpret you asking me the same question. You don't remember? Okay.
No.
So what you said was, you said, just know that I want to spend time with you. I love you. I ask you questions because I want to be with you. And I just enjoy spending time with you. So just...
And everybody that's listening to this, please understand this. That is a no BS comment. That there's no bullshit in that. There's no me trying to get around the scenario of me forgetting. That's legitimately how I am. I grew up in a family where I'm Jewish, everybody talked. We all repeated ourselves over and over and over again. And it was not uncommon for us to ask the same question, in a slightly different nuanced way 20 times about the same subject, thinking that maybe there's a different answer in there somewhere. So I grew up in an environment where someone repeating themselves was not unusual. JJ's vibe or feeling of someone repeating themselves means that the receiver of that information didn't care enough to receive the message or listen or care about the person sending the message. In this case, for me, was inaccurate. But it doesn't matter how I feel. It's how she feels as she's receiving the message of me not hearing what she had said the first time.
Well, again, it's all in the interpretation. Because like I said, in my past relationship, this was reversed. I was you. I was one repeating myself all the time. And they were feeling like I wasn't listening or that I thought they were stupid because I had to repeat myself. And that absolutely was not what I was saying when I was doing it, which is why I asked you to tell me what you wanted me to interpret. And so then I had to coach him a little bit through, because that didn't really land right away, because it's not something people ask you. It's not normal when you get upset with someone to uncover and go back into, what did you hear me say and how did you interpret that? Because normally when you're triggered, you're upset and you're reacting. And we have trigger patterns that go from here's what I interpreted, here's how I feel, and then here's what I do. And those are automatic. And most people are not going to get ahead of it. You're just going to be cleaning up the mess after it. So when you're in it, I wanted, because we were in it. And frustrations were happening and, we were trying to manage. And I said, okay, we need to change what we hear.
Well, we stopped. I mean, we stopped on a dime because we said, okay, can we just dissect this for a second? I mean, even in that frustrating moment, which is really hard to do. So those that are listening to this and hoping that you're going to be able to accomplish it, give yourself a little bit of leeway. It may take you a few times of doing this. I'm dealing with a pro on the other side. Just know, what's the thing that you always see on TV? Closed track professional driver. Don't try this at home.
Well, it's a part of the tools, and I use them obviously more than you. With clients, and I'm teaching it, and I'm talking about it all day long, every day. And it's new for you, but you've been doing it with me since you've been with me, and we use them when we need to, and luckily we don't need to use them all that much. But when we do, it makes it better, which is always my goal, that if you have some kind of conflict, that there's something called conflict resolution, and that comes to understanding, whether it be using a couples dialogue, which we've talked about before, or a very simple, I didn't have the sheets on me. We weren't going to stop on our hike and do a couples dialogue. I wanted to get down to what's the bottom line. This is what I hear. This is how I interpret this when you say this. And so that's why I'm reacting this way. And so, and vice versa, when I said, what do you understand when I get frustrated? And he said, I think you think I'm stupid, right?
Correct.
Okay. And I'm not saying I think he's stupid. I know he's not stupid. I'm feeling not important, So here we go back and forth. And so when I said, I need to hear this differently. So now, and it's funny because there's another habit that I think I've shared with some of my groups when Doug and I first moved in together. While there are so many wonderful things that I love and that I appreciate so much about our relationship and about him, he leaves crumbs. Oh my God! And the crumbs would now again. I leave piles. I am a mess at a lot of things.
Yeah, it's always amazing to me the things that you pick up as this is the thing that is nitpicking for you, because it's like, don't you realize you're looking through your pile to see my crumbs on the table?
Well, again, so yeah, I know. I acknowledge we each have our thing, whatever that thing is, right? And mine is sometimes cleaning up the kitchen and not having crumbs. And so he'd make crumbs and it would frustrate me. I would get so mad. I'd want to yell at him. I'd want to tell him, why can't you clean up your crumbs? Because in other ways, he's super neat. His office is super neat. His closet is super neat. I'm like, why do you gotta leave crumbs? It's dirty to leave crumbs on the table. Anyway, so I had to change how I felt about that, because this is who he is, and I have a couple different options. One, I can accept it. Two, I can ask him to change it, but he probably isn't going to. Or three, I could clean up after him and just get angry about it, which doesn't change the situation. So I looked at those crumbs and said, I'm going to change the way I interpret this. I'm going to look at those crumbs and say, God, Doug Sandler left those crumbs, and I love that man. And the day that he's not here and there are no crumbs, I'm going to be sad.
I'm going to miss those
So
crumbs.
I'm going to miss those crumbs because those crumbs mean that he's in my life. And I appreciate him in my life.
Sasquatch was here.
Sasquatch was here, right? Okay, so it's about the reinterpretation. It's about hearing things differently. As many of you know, I'm getting ready to do one more beta 3-month course called Rewiring Your Core Wound Patterns. And I don't even really need to do it as a beta because I know what we're going to do in it. This is stuff I've been doing over and over again. I just decided to take 2 exercises, the ones I'm explaining right now, and put them in a 3-month course, because when you're looking at core wounds, how we heal them is to understand what you're interpreting. And you cannot heal them if you don't interpret things differently. So Doug and I now when he asks me, although he does without me expecting it, today he already said, hey, you might have already told me this before and I don't remember, which was great. It does ease me into it. But I now, when he asks me a question, I will feel, because I'm going to interpret how much he loves me and wants to spend time with me, which is my love language, quality time. So I can actually feel more like love and excitement. Not that I'm going to be so excited to repeat myself, but it's going to not only take the edge off, it's going to change the way that I, again, interpret it and feel about it and then react to it. So I wanted to share how we kind of went through that. Doug?
I want to share one other thing, because it's a thing that maybe you don't realize is a huge catalyst for maybe getting through this moment also, is the safe word.
Oh.
Because I think this is a really important thing, because this is a giggle point. When you're triggered, I'm triggered. This is something that can be done right in the middle of it to kind of like, oh, this is almost like a stopgap measure. So why don't you share?
Well, I think it was your idea.
Yeah, I think it was.
But this was before. This was before, because the safe word is a pattern interruption. Which, by the way,
thank you. Pattern
so
interruption.
anyone, but I have a show called Pattern Interrupting. Okay. So if anyone hasn't heard that episode, please type in pattern interrupting and go listen to that, because it's very important. But a pattern interruption and an energy disruptor would be, and a diffuser, so to speak, would be that safe word. But that was before we got underneath, because I knew the only way this trigger was going to change is if I interpreted what you said differently. And same thing for you.
Totally get it. 100%
So why don't
agree.
you explain safe word?
So the safe word is when you realize that you're in a scenario where both people are triggered, and which is, again, a very challenging. You have to be pretty schooled and pretty disciplined in order to get out of that moment. But a pattern interrupt, we said, let's come up with a safe word. So we came up with a word. I think you said the word. Let's just say Beetlejuice.
I said Beetlejuice. I thought it was funny.
It was very funny.
I first said CNI, because this could also be looked at as a CNI moment that we've talked about with Dr. Terry Reel on the show, which was one of the very first episodes I did with him, your core negative image. But it is a core negative image moment, but let's go underneath core negative image one layer deeper. What are you hearing? What are you interpreting? What are you telling yourself when I do this that's causing this trigger to happen? And that is very clean. And maybe because I'm I'm literally 6 feet under trigger conversation every day, it was an easy place for me to quickly go. And I can do it, you can do it. So let me explain a little bit for those of you that might be new to me or new to the show, what a core wound is. When you are 0 to 8, you have, and maybe even before birth, I mean, depending on what went on in the womb and, the state of your family and mother and stress and all that kind of stuff, there are certain core wounds that we have that are our subconscious interpreting meaning to behaviors or to situations. And very common are abandonment, feeling invisible, not being seen and heard. There's a whole bunch of core wounds. But anyway, what I've been starting to specialize in, because I think I like to make things super clear. I like to take very complicated situations and break them into pieces and parts and doable actions to make sense of them, so they're not some eluded, like, oh, core wound, it's this thing I'll never get over. Because somebody asked me, who applied, can someone really get over a core wound? Can you really heal a core wound? And the more we talked about it, I realized that that person was asking, can you ever get over a core wound without changing your interpretation? And I went, oh, she hasn't changed her interpretation of it. So the answer is no. If you always look at the same situation with the same story, with the same point of view, no, you'll never get over your core wound. You'll become desensitized to it. It won't bother you as much because it's been, because you've been bothered so much by it that it doesn't evoke the same emotional intensity. But can you ever heal it without reinterpreting it? I don't think you can. That is my opinion, as I continue to go through all of this with other people. But the other thing I want to mention about core wounds, so people don't think this is some big, dark, deep, dark, like you have to spend so much time in your past. The exercise that we do takes about an hour or less. I help you create a map. You get to see what your patterns are. We get to make a plan of how to heal them by doing opposite things to create some neural plasticity and open up different parts of your brain to reinterpret things. So just like in the situation with Doug and I, automatically now it's going to feel different because he's going to know and feel that I might think he's not listening to me, and I'm going to know he wants to spend more time with me, which is why he's asking me 15 times the same. Okay, I'm exaggerating. The same question. So when you have that map, and I was thinking about this today on our hike today, one of the things that I've noticed with people in my community, with clients, with people who've applied for this group, I only want to work with those of you that have done some of this work already. I want you to have a certain understanding about some of the wounds that you have, because and I want you to have tried certain things, because when you're first starting out with self-development, I go to whoever offers sort of some kind of healing or some kind of information that you think is automatically going to fix everything. And I've noticed this in my own life, where with any teacher, and that's on any subject, actually, if I am searching for relief or betterment of some part of my life, and I find a teacher or mentor that I resonate with and what they're doing, I will literally take on their entire, what they do, who they are, what they recommend, and I'll do that program 100%. But I'll go in trusting the mentor or the program to sort of fix all the things, but I don't know what all the things are. And maybe I come out of it and I have a little bit feels different, or a lot of it feels different, but then somewhere along the line I get triggered again, and now I feel like I'm back to the same place. What the Rewire program and what all the work that I'm doing with people right now in these groups is doing, and what I would like to do for all of you, or do for yourself. Hey, do it for yourself. And if you do the roadmap course, I walk through it with you, is for you to have that foundation, that roadmap, that blueprint, your blueprint. So if I'm walking into a situation where I think I need healing in a certain area of my life, let's say it's abandonment, and I've tried 3 things and they don't feel like they've made any progress, I can choose a person or a methodology or a healing very specifically to work on what I'm looking at as what my main issues are. So it puts me in the driver's seat of my own healing and me noticing when things are changing. And I'm not delegating or giving over my power to somebody else to tell me if I'm healed or not, right? And so if you have this map, if you have this foundation and blueprint of here are the places where I'm the most wounded, here are the habits and patterns that trigger me and go quickly through me and circuitry all the time. And then here are the things that I would need to do to create new neural pathways in order for me to change this, to reinterpret this, to become the opposite of this. If I have that, then you can more strategically go see a therapist or a healer or whomever and always come back to that you're in charge, that you understand why you're tapping, why you're doing energy healing, why you're doing Reiki, why you're doing constellation work, why you're doing astrology. If you're not clear why you're doing it, then we just keep jumping from program to program and person to person and hoping that one of these things is going to wipe clean all of our stuff. And what I see over and over again is when I've sent people to, again, certain healers or whatever, and I'm not saying that they don't have value. They absolutely have value. But we as people think that they're going to erase all of these things and we're going to come out the other side as a brand new person, and we don't take into consideration that we have any clue what we're trying to work on. The Rewire course, the 6-month deep dive, these are places where you map out and do a diagnosis of what needs to be worked on, what needs to be reinterpreted. If Doug and I had not stopped to reinterpret this situation, it would continue going over and over again. It would be me asking him to do it differently. It would be him asking me. You actually did ask me. You said, can you not get so frustrated? You literally said, can you just not get frustrated?
Yeah.
Because that's what you wanted from me. You wanted me to stop getting frustrated. But when you tell somebody to behave in a certain way, there's a reason why I was frustrated. I want you all to take these tools and get underneath. Don't ask somebody to be different. Ask to understand for clarification of why they're acting the way they are. Why are they interpreting what they're doing? Because his heart was in a good place. My heart was in a good place. But unless I'm understanding a different point of view, we can't fix this. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense to me. It was a great learning experience, great lessons learned.
So that'll happen in the span of probably less than a half an hour.
Yeah, definitely under an hour because the entire hike is an hour.
Right. I think we hiked for about 20 minutes. We got triggered at some point, and then maybe it happened within 15 or 20 minutes that we kind of took care of it. And again, you are welcome to use anything that we've talked about, any of the clues or the tools, because it's as simple as this, whether you know your core wounds or not. When you're having an argument with somebody, if you stop for a second and say, can I understand how you want me, like, what are your intentions? What do you hear me say, or how are you interpreting that is causing you to be upset with me? And then also vice versa, can I share with you what I hear, which is what upsets me? And then that by itself can help, again, heal some of the conversations that you have and the frustrations and the arguments that you have with people, because I'm here to tell you, not everybody's interpreting what you're doing the same way you are. So hopefully this has been helpful. It wasn't something I was planning on recording, but because I felt so accomplished about how quickly we used the tools to overcome an argument that's been happening for a while. This isn't the first time we've done it. And then we came out the other side feeling really good about it. And even though we haven't really needed to use the word Beetlejuice, we're not looking for the reasons to use the word Beetlejuice because it's funny. I wanted to share that with all of you so that you know that there is hope. That's us living this work. That's it in practice. That's it in real life. That's not in theory. That's not asking somebody to be different. That's using it in the moment to change how everybody feels. So everybody feels better, has clarity, and can move on and even feel closer. Did you feel closer to me?
I do, and I do now. Let's get in our steam shower.
Finally, the steam shower's done. Okay, so if you're interested, as of the recording of this, I think I have 1 or 2 spots left for the Rewire course, which is, again, a beta course. For now, it starts in May. There are only 6 people plus me because otherwise it's not manageable. And I do it in small groups because then you can't hide. So we work on this stuff. You kind of have me on speed dial in a group, and we take these exact situations and we rework them in real time. So that way you can start to implement the tools I'm talking about in your life right now to get the change and the feelings you want right now and you don't have to wait till some magic healing happens, because that's how the healing happens, is to start changing how you interpret things, therefore how you feel about them, and then how you react. So I hope today provided some value, and I would love to hear whether you are taking my course or not, if this helps your relationship with anybody in any way come to some better connection, clarification, and better feelings.